What's going on, everybody? How we doing? How's everybody's day? It's the weekend. Are you thrilled out of your mind? What are you going to do this weekend? Are we going to be coding? Or are you just going to be wasting time not working on your future? Just kidding. It's always good to have, some relaxed time, some de-stress time. What's going on? Zivik0999. What's happening? We're just going to be talking about code, tech, freelance today. So if you have questions about where to get started as a developer, questions about different technology stacks, let's do it. Let's dive into it. If you've been wanting to do freelance work, I've done a lot of freelance work. We can talk about freelancing, all that stuff. So whatever you want to talk about, code, tech, jobs, freelance, skateboarding, mullets, we can do all of it. How we doing? It's a little quiet today, right? Fridays are usually like that. But it's all good. It's all good. My goal is to, motivate or inspire at least one person, make a life-changing decision, get into code. So whatever we want to do. What's going on? Say Sravant. Don't even know if I pronounced that correctly, but I'm stoked to have you here. Good deal. How's everybody doing? What are you going to be doing this Friday? What are you going to be doing? You coding, chilling, working on your dreams, skating, getting a mullet haircut? What are we doing? Travel with Prince. Is it a good idea to develop 3 apps for free in the beginning? Please guide. Hey, Travel, that's a fantastic question. So if you're a beginner, and you're just trying to build a portfolio, absolutely. Building apps for free is just kind of part of the process. I mean, it's kind of painful, right? Because you're spending your time and not getting, really compensated for it immediately, but you're getting compensated for it in the long run. All right. So I'm a self-taught developer. When I was first learning to code, my first few projects that I took on were all free. All right. But it was a learning process. It taught me how to work with clients, kind of get a project that was more unique and build a more interesting portfolio. And then I was able to start charging for these freelance projects. And that really helped, especially when I was going out and started applying for jobs. All right. Because these employers, they really like to see that I had paid projects under my belt, that somebody was willing to pay me for my skills. So that added a lot of credibility to what I was doing. But yeah, in the beginning, you know what? Take on some free projects. It's going to pay off in the long run. Let's see. What's going on? The one goodie. What do we have here? Do you know where I can learn to code? I learned HTML first. So yeah, so you could start with like YouTube tutorials. There's also some free websites like Codecademy. I mean, also, I guess it depends. It sounds like you're doing web development because you talked about HTML. So anyways, yeah, you can pick up some free tutorials on YouTube and such. But one thing to consider is learning on your own can be really frustrating and it's easy to get discouraged. All right. And you can also get lost, right? Because you don't really have any direction. Like, what should you be learning? Like, should I learn this technology or this one or this one? So one of the cool things is I'm a full stack engineer here at DevSlopes, and I'm also an instructor and a mentor. We've got a web academy where students, enroll, and I help teach them web development all the way from beginning to end. And then I work with them until they get paid freelance work or land a job. All right. So if you're on this path of web development, you should do HTML, CSS for 3 to 4 weeks. Dive into JavaScript. It's very common to spend 6 to 9 months in JavaScript to become proficient in JavaScript. All right. And then choose a front-end technology like React or Vue. And then, that's a real good start. And then after, you pick up React or Vue, some front-end technology, start thinking full stack applications, working with the backend and such. All right. Let's see what we have happening over here on YouTube. Let's see. Vishnu. Hey, I need my first client. I'm having six months of applications, hundreds of them, and testimonials. I can't get even my first project. So Vishnu, what are you doing to find clients? How are you trying to land clients and find projects? Are you doing Upwork? Are you doing Fiverr? Are you networking? Are you letting people know that you can code? Are you doing any marketing of yourself? And I don't mean like doing paid Google ads or anything. All right. But what I mean is, are you networking with people? Do people know that you do what you do? All right. Joy Project. Hello. I want to ask, how much is the full stack salary in your country? So full stack, it's going to be different in web, Android, and iOS. So as a full stack engineer, it's very common after like 3 years experience in the job market to be being paid at least 100,000 or more. All right, very, very common to see those type of salaries for full stack engineers after 3 years in the field. Sometimes it could be a little bit sooner, depends on the company. Now, iOS and Android developers, those are going to be paid, they have higher salaries, but it's more common to find a full stack engineer, like a web developer, full stack web developer, versus a full stack iOS or a full stack Android developers. In my experience, what I've seen a lot of the times is you have the iOS developer or the Android developer that handle the front end, and then you've got, another developer building the back end, because usually it's in an entirely different framework or programming language, nothing to do with iOS or Android. Whereas in web development, if you're doing full stack, you can do something like Node, Express, and Mongo for the backend. And what's really cool about Node is it allows you to write JavaScript on the server. All right, so it keeps everything in one code base. So it's much more common to find full stack web developers than full stack mobile app developers. Let's see, Scriptic. Hi, what are your thoughts on no code dev? I mean, it's good. It depends on what you're, using it for. Are you talking about like what are you talking about exactly? Are you talking about using platforms like WordPress or Squarespace to, build websites with? Like, what exactly do you mean? All right, Vishnu, you're using Upwork, Divert, LinkedIn, and AngelList, and you're still having a hard time getting projects. So there's one thing to marketing your skills as a freelancer. Like, skills is always good, but clients also like somebody who is pleasant to work with. So, and I don't know if you are or are not doing this, I'm not saying that, but being able to connect with the client and everything, have a good communication, and I don't know, to what's the word I'm looking for? I guess, get along, right? Because it's always more of a pleasure to work with someone who is fun and easy to work with. So that's one of the things for me when I was first freelancing. Like, sure, I had the skills. I wasn't like some mind-blowing wizard developer, but I had skills. I was good. I could, deliver results. But what people really liked is working with my personality. I was really easy to talk to. They like chatting with me, things like that. So there's kind of two sides of the coin there, right? You got to kind of fit both. Travel with Prince. Sometimes it happens that I don't complete my number one project and jump into a second project. Is that okay? I would complete the project. So here's a funny thing about that. It's always the most fun starting out a project, right? Like getting into it, building out the first features, the first initial like UI and everything. That part's really, really exciting. The last like yard of it, like, football field or the whole 9 yards, whatever. The last yard of development is always the most frustrating and the most boring, because it really entails like all the little touch-ups, all the little bug fixes, all the little UI tweaks, all that stuff. And so, yeah, once you've built the initial functionality of the project and the fun stuff is done, a lot of people move on to that second project, but you really need to get in the habit of finishing that first project, especially if you're trying to build any type of a portfolio. Companies and, other clients, they want to see complete work delivered. And it's also important for you as a developer to go full circle, right? You got to finish the job. Let's see, Vishnu, how to get my first client exactly. Even it's hard. I will try. I need to see or set the start. So also Vishnu, one thing that I did, I know, COVID's changed the game in a lot of cases, but when I was landing projects as a freelancer, since I really liked to talk to people and I was a people person, I went to networking events. All right. So I was going to these networking events where there were CEOs, entrepreneurs, business owners, and that way I could land, smaller static websites, whatever, for the entrepreneurs just starting a business. But what was cool is a lot of these CEOs and more established companies, they needed software built. And that's where the real money is in building software versus little websites. So I landed a software project with a client. Hold on, TikTok paused here for a minute. I landed a software project for a client, a company, and it paid out $100,000 over the course of 9 months. It was an awesome freelance project to pick up, and I didn't have that stress of trying to find, a new little website to do every single week. So try to look for software projects, because once you land them, they're usually much more long-term in most cases. Plan on growing a bears with the mullet, Elizabeth says. A beard with the mullet. You know what, Elizabeth? This is like as good as it gets. I've been trying for over 20 years to grow facial hair, and I can't get this to connect here. This is it. This is what you get. Joy Project. Hello, I want to ask which country you are in. I'm in the USA. I'm here in Austin, Texas. Nice and humid, great sunshine, all that fun stuff. All right, let's take some questions from TikTok. How's everybody doing here? What's going on at BC? Oh, what the heck's going on here? All right. Let's see. Yo, I'm going to college for computer science in the fall. That's awesome. I will tell you, firsthand experience here, you do not need computer science to get a coding job at all. I have friends and family who have done it, and they've all said that it was a massive waste of $80,000. I'm a self-taught developer myself, and I went from self-taught, and then I worked at Dell Computers as a full-stack engineer, and for several years. And on the job resume, on the job requirements, it said computer science degree, 7 years experience using JavaScript, and 3 years in React. But I didn't have a computer science degree. I had 3 years experience in JavaScript and only 1 year in React. And they hired me because going down that self-taught road, I had so much hands-on experience building projects that I was able to start building useful applications right out the gates, versus college teaches you a lot of theory. You'll learn some basics of programming like Java for like 30 days, like a month. And then you take like a 2-month break learning about geography or history or something weird and random. And that's not how you learn how to code. So if you, I don't know, it's just something to consider. You don't need computer science to learn how to code. I would also ask yourself, why are you going to college for a computer science degree? If you are under the belief that you need a computer science degree to get a job, or that it's going to help you get a job, it's false. At the end of the day, all an employer wants is somebody who can code. They don't care if you learned how to code at college. They don't care if you learned how to code at Walmart or the dollar store, all right, from your basement. They just want somebody who can code and deliver results. So anyways, let's see. Invincible Traders, what's up? What's going on? What about game development? Game development is awesome. What kind of games do you want to build? So I've done a little bit of game development. I use the Unity 3D engine to build games, and that was a lot of fun. The one Goody says, I did make a website when I was in high school. That's awesome. I mean, that's experience under your belt right there, right? Got to start somewhere, and that's cool that you started it all the way back in high school. What's going on from Nepal? Welcome. Did you try minoxidil plus derma roller? I've never heard of that. I don't even know what that is. Miguel asks, is MacBook with an M1 processor good enough for coding? Absolutely it is. Absolutely. Now, like if you're doing web development, it's plenty good. If you're doing iOS and Android development, it's still good. But one thing you have to consider is with the MacBook M1s, it doesn't have the type of processing that like power in it that a MacBook Pro does, because you have to consider when you're coding, you have so many applications open. You've got a million, tabs open in Google Chrome. If you're doing iOS development or Android, you've got the simulator open as well with your code editor. You've got other programs and such going on. So mobile development, there's some programs that use that use a lot more memory and processing power. But if you're doing web development, I mean, the M1 is fine. But really, at the end of the day, any computer is going to work, whether you want to use Windows or Mac. What language is machine learning written in for websites and apps? Usually Python. Python is the most popular language in my experience for machine learning and AI. Where do I learn Python or JavaScript? YouTube. YouTube has both of those. If you wanted, the fast track, you could always check out the DevSlopes Academy. We've got the iOS, Android, and Web Academy, and you get hooked up with a mentor and a coach. There's live weekly meetups. You have somebody personally review all of your code to make sure that you're implementing best practices, and we work with you until you get paid. Whether you want to do freelance work or get a job, we work with you through the entire career prep process, the interview process, until you get paid in your bank account, period. That's what we do at DevSlopes. If you're interested in learning to code, want some more structure and guidance, go to devslopes.com/apply. All right, what's going on, YouTube? Let's check this out. So Ola asks, how can I start? I have basics in programming from university study, and I do not know which branch I should choose. So there's an interesting comment. See, even somebody who's gone to a university to learn coding is still kind of lost. Like, what should I do? So that's one of my points about like universities and colleges is they don't teach you the skills, everything that you need to know to be successful in the job market. All right. And that's why DevSlopes is awesome, because we walk you through that entire process. You won't be lost. There's a very guided, structured learning path. And then we teach the other side of the spectrum. It's one thing to have skills, but what about making money? So we do both of that. So Ola, I don't know what you studied in your university. If it was web or app development, let me know. And I would be happy to give you some more direction on where to go. When did you start freelancing? I mean, in 20s. Are you talking about 20 years old? Yeah, I started in my mid-20s doing freelance work. And then Scriptic is asking, I meant how scalable is it? No code dev. What was your question here? Let me scroll back here. Hi, what are your thoughts on no code development? Like, how scalable is it? So again, I don't know if you're talking about platforms like WordPress or anything. I mean, it's only as scalable as large as the project needs to be. If you need this huge, extravagant, website with all these custom features, and you plan on it growing and implementing different things over time, WordPress or Squarespace, for an example, you're stuck in their environment. Okay, customizing, trying to go outside of that sphere is going to be very hard to scale. I mean, those just cover the most common basic development for websites. If you need a custom solution, you need to custom code it. How do you deal with fear as a programmer? Are you talking about like imposter syndrome? Like when you're going to apply for a job, but you just don't feel like you're good enough? Or are you talking about like, did you make the right choice choosing programming as a career path or whatnot? Let me know. I'd be happy to answer that. I've experienced all of it. I've done the self-taught road. I know all about, questioning yourself if programming was the right decision. all the way to imposter syndrome, not feeling like I was good enough to get any, coding job because I was self-taught, but it's all false. What's up, Yondam? Greetings from the Philippines. How are you? What do you think about Blazor? Blazor, I've heard of. Gal, that's probably silly. It's probably so common. I've heard of Blaze, but Blazor, I need to Google. I've never used Blazor specifically, so I don't have any thoughts about it. Ramsad, let's see. In the future, no need, degree only programming knowledge need to freelance is correct. That was a lot of mini sentences. Let's see. Maybe you were answering somebody else's questions, but anyways, I'm not sure how to comment on that. Flutter with Python is good for AI, machine learning related apps. I'm sure it can be. I've never used those two technologies together. I've never built an AI or machine learning app. I do know that Python is, most popular for AI and machine learning, and I've worked with Flutter before. But I have never personally even considered or fathomed or thought about using Python with Flutter. And so I don't really have any comments on that. Could you be an iOS developer without owning a Mac? No. Christian, you need to have an Apple computer to be an iOS developer. It's just, that's part of Apple, right? Forcing you to use their products. But the other cool thing is if you have a Mac, you can do any type of development. You can do iOS, Android, and web. All right, you can do any of it. If you're a Windows user, you can do web and Android. You're not able to work on iOS apps. Is Java easier than Kotlin? No, it is not. The entire Android community is actually pushing Kotlin like crazy. Like they're steering completely away from Java. I'm not saying Java is obsolete or it's bad for Android apps, but it's good to know if you're getting a job and maybe there's some legacy code. But with Kotlin, you're going to be writing 30% or 40% less code. It's faster, it's backwards compatible, it has a cleaner syntax to it. And that's what the Android community is doing. They're doing Kotlin. They're completely moving out of the game of Java, more or less. Let's see, Keto, he can use VMware. Sure, you could use VMware, but what kind of an environment is that to develop iOS on like Windows or something? Like that is such a hacky solution. Yes, you could, but the development experience, you really need a Mac if you want to be a good iOS engineer and be able to build good iOS apps. Not saying that you can't build good iOS apps with VMware, but you just need a Mac. You need a Mac. That is not a common thing. I've never heard in my life of a freelancer or professional developer ever using a virtual machine from like a Windows to build iOS apps. It's not how it's done. Travel with Prince, like fear if I can create a successful project while working for a company. I read in your post that we can't be perfect. Fear question. Yeah, absolutely. You can't be perfect. But you would be surprised that fear of can you code and deliver results is really just a facade. Like when you get out into an actual programming job, like first off, they wouldn't have hired you if they didn't think you were capable. All right, there's like up to like 5, 6, 7 interviews to get a developer position. First, there's like a phone screening. All right, they're going to ask you some basic questions. You have the technical interview. You've got like the coding interview where they'll have you either whiteboard some coding solutions, or you'll do a live coding session on, I think it's called HackerRank, or there's some software platform that allows you to do live coding sessions. They might even give you a take-home project to do. And then there's more interview processes. So they wouldn't bring you onto the team if they didn't think you were capable of delivering results. And to top that, sometimes you just got to throw yourself in there and see what happens. When I first learned how to code after 13 weeks of learning to code, that's all the experience I had was 13 weeks. I took on my first contract position. It was a 3-month deal, and they were the first person that said yes to me. And so I just went with it. The requirements for this piece of software that I was supposed to build was way over my head. Like it exceeded my skill set so much that I actually had to subcontract somebody else to help me finish it. So they contracted me to build it, and I subcontracted somebody else to help me finish it. So you just got to throw yourself in there, and then that'll help you gauge where your skills are at as a developer. But punch fear in the face, okay? Fear is going to do nothing but hold you back. You just got to go out there and try. All right, TikTok, I'm going to jump to some of your questions here in a little bit. Let's finish up these YouTube questions. Let's see where we at here. Greetings from Denmark. Greetings from Utopia. Welcome, everybody. What do you think about JavaScript? Can we learn in 2021? Absolutely. There's a million resources for JavaScript, and it's very common for a person to spend probably 6 to 9 months in JavaScript before they're proficient with it. But I mean, you can learn JavaScript anywhere. There's Codecademy. There's loads of different other websites that can do it. There's YouTube tutorials. I mean, you can find JavaScript tutorials all over the place. All right. But if you want the fast track, Joseph, if you want to learn it fast, check out the DevSlopes Academy. I'm the web instructor for the DevSlopes Academy. I would be honored to personally work with you to learn how to code and work with you all the way to getting a job. All right. We have weekly live meetups. I do code reviews. You're going to turn in projects and assignments. I will personally review your code. You can ask questions anytime. All right. You've got lifetime access. I will work with you through the whole career prep process, through your interview process. I will work with you in strategizing your LinkedIn and your resume, how to negotiate salaries, how to work with recruiters. And until you get a job and you get paid, my job's not done. All right. So if you want that type of guidance and support, I'd be stoked out of my mind to help you. Go to devslopes.com/apply. I'm going to type it here in the chats. Dang it, my keyboard's covered up with my freaking TikTok here. Never mind. I'll drop it in the chats in a little bit. But it's devslopes.com/apply. Salem, how to tell whether if you're ready to apply for front-end development positions. Salem, that's a good question. That's something I get asked all the time. So ask yourself this question. Can you build a CRUD application? That's a full stack app. It's an app that can create, read, update, and delete records from a database. If you can build a project like that, not from a tutorial, but be able to, like, for an example, build a Slack clone or a Twitter clone app and do the research and Google things and problem solve, then yes, you're ready to do front-end development. Now, you might be wondering, well, why do I have to build the database and everything for a front-end developer position? Well, the reality is, it is your job as a front-end developer to be able to work with the APIs that the back-end developer has built and take data from those APIs and plug it into the client side, into the UI. All right, so you need to have a working knowledge of how databases and APIs work. All right. You don't have to be an expert in it, but you just need to know how to work with them. All right. We're going to wrap up here in like 5 minutes. Let's see. Kikito, do we need to learn AI as web and mobile developers? Only if you want to build apps that use AI. Otherwise, no, absolutely not. You should really ask your question, what is it you want to do with programming? If your whole goal with programming is building, apps like with AI, then yeah, then you should be learning like Python or something. All right. So you can do those type of things. But if you just want to build simple, regular mobile apps or web applications, don't waste your time learning AI. There's no need. Naruda, should I learn Java before Kotlin? I would say no. I would do Kotlin first. You'll get up and running building applications, Android apps, way faster. Now, you also have to, consider this. Is your goal to do freelance? If your goal is to do freelance, don't worry about Java, just do Kotlin. All right. If you want to work for a company, then you should probably have some working knowledge of Java, because it's common that if this company has, an Android app, there's legacy code that might be in Java. All right. At the same time, Kotlin is really cool because it's backwards compatible. So that means you can have an existing app built in Java and then immediately start writing in Kotlin. All right. You can just inject it directly into the app. So backwards compatible, which is really cool. So go with Kotlin. Kakito, JavaScript is important. Heck yes, it is. In web development, it's an absolute necessity. What can you do after the 30-day JavaScript challenge? Hey, Mohammed, it sounds like you're in our DevSlopes 30-day code challenge or getting ready to start. That starts July 1st, I think. So the whole 30-day code challenge is going to stretch your skills like crazy as a JavaScript developer, whether you're a beginner or you have previous experience in it. It's going to, I kid you not, it's going to open up your brain, because it's going to allow you to think in ways that your brain has never thought before, like creative ways to come up with solutions. So after the 30-day challenge, like if you already know the basics of HTML and CSS, you'll have enough working knowledge of JavaScript that you could start, using the two together. I mean, there's really any direction you want to go after the 30-day challenge. But if you're a beginner, I mean, you're still probably going to want to work brushing up on JavaScript skills and then start building projects. Let's see, I'm going to hop over here to TikTok for a little bit. What's going on, everybody? Let's see, TVG Wireless asked also, what are the best AI APIs? You know what? I haven't built anything with AI. So I've never used APIs with AI apps or anything. I don't know. I've been coding for years, almost 6 years, but I'm not an expert at everything, but I have, been around the block. So what if you develop Apple stuff on a Hackintosh? Are you talking about like a hacked Windows computer for Apple? Well, just like if you're using a Hackintosh, it's going to be really hacky and sketchy. The experience is not going to be good. If you want to do iOS apps, if you don't have the money for a MacBook or a Mac computer, borrow one from friends or family. See if you can do that. Like if iOS apps is what you want to do, then do it. All right. Borrow a Mac. So my brother, he's a self-taught developer. He worked at a call center and he used to flip burritos at Costa Vida. All right. He's not going to get mad at me saying this, but he was dirt poor. He had a wife, some kids, and he was broke out of his mind, and he lived paycheck to paycheck, and he couldn't stand it anymore. So he got into programming, but he wanted to do iOS apps, but he didn't have enough money to even remotely come close to buying a MacBook. So he borrowed one from a cousin, and he borrowed it for a couple of months just so he could get into programming. But anyways, long story short, he's a self-taught developer, and he went from broke out of his mind, paycheck to paycheck, borrowing a MacBook so he could learn how to code iOS apps. And now he's making over $115,000 a year after 3 years of coding. That's it. But I'm not going to say how much he makes, but I'll tell you he makes more than $115,000 a year as a front-end iOS engineer, all self-taught. And he all started learning to code on his lunch breaks at his call center job. All right. Is it difficult to get into Google? Are you talking about the company? Google, like being a developer? I've never applied for Google, but I know the interview process for Amazon and Google is some of the most intense interviews that are out there. So I've heard. Okay. I've heard these things. I don't have personal experience. Let's see. I'll take my free classes now. Yeah. You should always start getting into code for free, right? Take some free classes, free tutorials. You don't want to invest and spend money learning to code if you haven't decided that's the path that you want to go down. If that is the path that you want to go down and you find learning to code on your own, which it is, I've done it, It's very difficult. You get lost, you get frustrated, and there's, a lack of support when you get discouraged and want to quit. If you're looking for more structure or guidance, check out the DevSlopes Academy, devslopes.com/apply. And you can get hooked up with a free career coaching call and see if the DevSlopes Academy is even for you. All right. See if it's for you. Not J4, or I think that's not Jack, asks, is C# still worth learning? Sure. If you want to, C# you can use for a lot of different things. If you want to build like games, for an example, like with the Unity 3D, it's a great, programming language to use. But you should really ask yourself, what do you want to do with programming? Do you want to do web development? You should start with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React or Vue, or Angular. If you want to do iOS development, start with Swift. If you want to do Android development, start with Kotlin. All right. It just depends on what you want to do. If you want to build rovers that go to Mars or work on AAA games, learn C++. All right. It depends on what you want to do. That determines your learning path. Please do not waste your time learning a programming language because everybody says it's so cool and it's the best thing to learn. All right. I hear that all the time, and it's absolutely false. Pick a programming language that will take you down the path of what you want to do with programming. Do not waste your time learning languages that people say are super cool. They might be cool, but it might be a waste of time if that's not what you want to do with programming. Let's see, the Mirror 388. Do you guys guarantee a job after 16 weeks of training? So the program, the DevSlopes Academy, is a 6-week training program. Now, it can take students shorter than 16 weeks or longer than 16 weeks. It just depends. All right. So we've got students that are in there that have been there longer, but we also have students that are like hustling and grinding like crazy, and they've already landed jobs within that 16-week mark. The important thing is here at DevSlopes, for an example, if you were in the Web Academy, I will personally work with you until you get paid as a freelancer or get a job. So yes, in 16 weeks, do we guarantee a job? I wouldn't say we guarantee it in 16 weeks, but I can guarantee that I will personally work with you and we will work with you until you get a job or until you get your freelancing gig, whatever you want to do. Like, that's when we work with you until that point. The whole interview process, the working with clients, doing freelance work, we do all that. All right. It's ridiculous that a lot of these, programs out there that teach you how to code, they're like, oh, we're just going to teach you the skill. And it's like, okay, cool. That's super awesome. But what about getting paid? How do you use those skills in the real world? Have you ever worked with a recruiter? Do you even know how to build a developer resume? Because I can promise you it is so different than a regular resume. Do you know how to strategize your LinkedIn in a way to get the attention of recruiters and other employers? There's 5, 6, 7 different interviews to get a developer position. It is such an interesting industry, and these other programs don't teach you those super important things. And so that's why here at DevSlopes, if you want to learn to code, fantastic. We're going to help you learn how to code. But it is just as important to get paid. Like, what's the purpose of having a skill if you don't get paid for it? Doesn't make sense. So anyway, sorry, I went like way off on that. And part of the reason why I guess I'm so passionate about that is because as a self-taught developer, I tried some of these little programs out there and I learned some skills, but I was left on my own and I had no idea how to apply or get work. Nobody gave me guidance and direction. I just learned through trial and error that the way I was building my resume sucked. Like, it was the wrong way to do it for a developer, So anyways, I have been going off here for a while. I might take a question or two, but we're going to wrap it up. It's Friday. Perfect day to go learn how to code or I guess hang out, right? But you should code. You should code. All right. There's so many good questions here. I'm not going to be able to get to them. I apologize. You can continue to leave comments in the YouTube chats. If you're interested in learning to code and want to learn more about the DevSlopes Academy, go to devslopes.com/apply. If you want to participate in DevSlopes 30-day code challenge, the next challenge starts here on July 1st, so just a couple of days. Go to 30daycodechallenge.com And we've got these 30-day challenges set up for JavaScript and Swift. All right, that's it, everybody. As always, stay positive, keep calm, and code on. Have a great weekend.